Thank you everyone for joining us today. This is our first public PIO training session and the second session of the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police PIO section. For those of you unfamiliar, the purpose of the PIO section is to provide law enforcement profession and the professionals in this section with information, training, and a forum for discussion of course, public information officer topics. We're going to continue to actively promote through education and training this increased understanding of external communications in the law enforcement community. And we're going to assist the ILACP, its membership, in kind of coordinating efforts across the state. So far, we have close to 40 members in this section, but our goal is to get all PIOs from across the state to join in to get a robust network going. We believe this would really greatly benefit those in need of training, assistance, or help in crisis situations. And we're going to encourage all departments to send at least one representative to join the section, and we'll continue to do that. Okay, now that we have that out of the way, let's focus on today's training topic, why you need to take charge of your message. As we got the PIO section kind of going, we realized that a lot of people have some important questions about PIOs and the benefits that they bring to the organization. Today, we're going to be taking your questions and giving you kind of an overview of just why it is so vitally important for agencies to have a public information officer to manage their message. Without further ado, let me introduce you to our panelists today. We have Chris Cavelli of the Lake County Sheriff's Office. We have Joe Lamberson from Champaign Police, Michelle Marcombe from the Rockford Police Department, and Christina Nimitz from the Village of Montgomery and the Montgomery Police Department. I will let you guys kind of take it from here.
Thank you so much, AJ. So today we're going to go through a few slides with some basic information up front. What is a PIO? What do they do? And then we'll open it up to some questions we received in advance before we just open it up further to any questions you may have based on our presentation. So with that, we're going to start with what is a public information officer, or a PIO? There's a lot of text on this slide, and I'm not going to read it to you. We've got a bunch of chiefs and public information officers, people who broadly know what public information is and what we do. The information on this slide comes from FEMA, because you always have to start with a good source, but ultimately our role is about more than what's on this slide, right? We are the public face of the department in a lot of ways, whether we're the person on camera or whether we're the person coordinating all of our media and engagement. Beyond that, we're a vital role according to FEMA, but really according to the way these things are run these days. We live in a time where information moves faster than it ever has before, and misinformation moves faster than that because it does not need to be fact-checked. So because of that, it is vitally important for every law enforcement agency to have someone in a key role of making sure that good, timely, and accurate public information is getting out to their community, whether it is in a time of crisis or just in things like traffic patterns are messed up because of this accident, please avoid the area. It is always better for you to control your narrative than for someone else to, and that's what a public information officer does. We bring a unique set of skills. I like to explain to people as a civilian, you're not going to send me in to breach a building, and I'm not going to send you into a press conference. And so it's really about making sure that you have that necessary skill set, those trained individuals to do that role, along with all these other things that FEMA explains that are needs for you. So in a nutshell, that's what a public information officer is, and we'll explain more throughout the questions as well.
Okay, so how essential is a PIO for your organization? In today's fast-paced world, public information is no longer a luxury. It is an essential service, and information travels instantly. As Joe said, the need for clear, accurate, and timely communication has never been more critical. And a PIO can serve as that bridge between the police department, your municipal officials, and your community. The role is essential in ensuring the public stays informed about important developments, whether they involve community events, public safety announcements, or emergency situations. So in emergency situation, your PIO is going to control the 24/7 news cycle and social media world that we live in to deter rumors and prevent misinformation. Your PIO is there to support, assist, manage communications so that your team can do what you guys are all so great at and respond to the emergencies and serve the community. After all, if you aren't speaking, someone else is doing it for you in today's world. So a PIO not only provides that transparency, but also fosters and builds the stronger connection between you, your public, the law enforcement, and city leaders. PIOs and communication strategists, they ensure your department connection to the community. They develop trust and build a rapport with traditional media. They build a following through proactive social media in advance of anything you may be facing in an emergency situation. And they work to humanize your officers, ensure transparency, and share details on department programs. So in essence, a public information officer is more than just a communicator. They are the heartbeat of your public relations efforts, and their work ensures that our communities remained informed, engaged, and confident in the leadership of our police departments.
Thanks, Christina. So kicking it to what makes a good PIO, and agencies do different things. Larger agencies, we tend to see a full-time dedicated PIO or a team of PIOs. You look at Michelle and Rockford, Chicago, some of our larger agencies, that's obviously what they do. A lot of mid-sized to smaller agencies, we have somebody that wears multiple hats, and that's very common. One thing I would definitely advise against is the chief of police being the PIO. And the reason being, their job is to run the agency. There might be, and there will be times that they have to jump up on camera and address the media, a time that they have to take a phone call from a journalist and address that journalist on a specific question. But ordinary day-to-day happenings, things going on in the community, those can be handled and should be handled by whoever the public information officer is. This is because they build good, solid relationships and a good foundation with the journalists that are covering the community every day. They should be following and knowing what's important to the community that we're serving. They should know what's important to the media that's covering those stories. But basic skills, obviously writing. They should be writing press releases. Something major happens in a community, they're going to have to put it on paper and push it out. I always strongly recommend having at least somebody review that press release for grammar errors, for anything that could be slightly misstated. We want to avoid that, but just give it a once over. We don't want to push information out. We don't want to push a press release out that has grammatical errors. And I've definitely been guilty of that more than once throughout my time as a PIO. So it just makes us look a little sloppy, a little unprofessional, and the community will ping us on it immediately when they see that on social media if we got a word wrong or misspelled something. Public speaking, they have to be able to go out and address the community, whether that be at a community event, whether that be on camera, or whether that be in a recorded interview. They have to be able to present well, speak well. And one of the things I commonly say when I talk to newer PIOs is that they're representing the entire agency. It's never about themselves. It's never about them as a person. It is about their community and it's about their agency. And make no mistake, everybody internally is going to be judging that message and what that PIO says with a fine-tooth comb. The internal audience is always going to be an audience. So we always want to represent them well, represent the agency well. They have to have some basic photography skills, and a cell phone camera today will do the job. They make those things unbelievably well when it comes to pixels, taking high resolution photos, and being able to post those on social media. So those social media basics are a must as well. And these are basic skills. So just being able to throw a post up and know how that works, know how each platform works, know how to maneuver the various aspects of each platform. Absolutely have to know what the policy is when it comes to external communications, what you can't say to the news media, what you can and can't say to the public, and they have to have access to that department leadership. Now, if you've only got one PIO, and this isn't a team of PIOs, they really do need those advanced skills as well. And if you've got a team of PIOs, whoever is overseeing that division, that unit, who is the director of communication, they need to have these advanced skills, no doubt about it. News writing, they have to know how to accurately write a news release. What is the lead of the story? What's important in the body? What's your conclusion going to be, or your call to action? The lead is the most critical piece of a news release. Why you're sending this off to every news outlet, whether it be in the Rockford media market, Chicago media market, Springfield media market. Why are those editors and those journalists going to say, you know what, this is something that's important to us too, and we want to cover it? If it's not in the lead, if it's buried, there's a chance they're not going to pick up on it. So that is really important, knowing how to write news releases that are going to grab the attention of our news media. Have that training and that skill set to be able to go on camera. It's not something that comes natural, that's for sure. Certainly, I'll speak from experience. My first many news conferences or one-on-ones with the television news media, I was nervous as can be, and that is totally normal. But there are ways to build those skills, gain confidence, and do them with smaller stories. So when the big one happens, major events happen, or you have to call a news conference about something, you can feel confident and comfortable. And you can also ensure your talking points, what you're saying, are going to be captured in little sound bites in the evening news, morning news, whatever it is. And those are things that a lead PIO should be thinking about. Doing some videography where you're recording, you can edit clips. Where this is becoming very, very important today is when it comes to use of force incidents. The community expects to hear from us. They expect to see what happened, especially if they're major, and they expect it to happen quickly. They don't want to wait a month, and the longer we wait, the more and more unacceptable it becomes to the community, the more it leads to potential rumors starting out there, and it creates other issues that then PIO, chiefs, us as an agency have to try to get out in front of, and it creates more fires than putting them out. Advanced knowledge of social media. This means what days of the week do we have the most impact on social media from our audience? When is the best time of day to post a message? One of the things that often we'll talk about in trainings is we will often pre-schedule posts to go out. One thing to be aware of, if we have a major incident that happens, something that is sad, we need to be remorseful of, show empathy. We don't want a pre-scheduled post of a bunch of our officers together having a great time at a community event to publish during that incident. So we have to think, all right, something major happens, we need to cancel those pre-scheduled posts and ensure that our message is consistent that day. Be able to explain policy, why we have certain policies in place, especially when it comes to use of force or some type of public safety, maybe how we responded to a call where there's questions about it. And I wouldn't just say a role in department leadership. Really, a PIO needs to have a seat at that executive table. That is really, really important. The public information officer, the director of communications, whoever is going to be regularly speaking for your department, they have to have a seat at that table. They need to know what is the philosophy of the chief and the executive leadership. And they should be able to be a sounding board also, because if the chief and the executive leadership is going in one direction and the PIO thinks, hey, listen, I don't believe the community is going to feel the same way as you feel about this issue or how we're messaging it, they need to be able to confidently give you feedback and input. At the end of the day, it's up to the chief or the sheriff or whoever, which direction you go. But they should be a valued resource. They should be a strategic advisor to the leadership of an agency. And I cannot stress that enough. It is so important. And if there are trust issues with the PIO, it's going to create major issues when it comes to messaging to the community. We see it all the time when we turn on the news and we watch news conferences where it seems like there's mixed messaging, or we just wonder, how can this PIO or this chief, why are they going in this direction? Do they not understand the tone of the community right now and how the community feels about this? So anyway, all very important things. The PIO role is really, really important in this day and age, 2024. The community expects and they demand to hear from us in real time, whether that be on social media, whether that be addressing the community through traditional media, news conferences, whatever it is. But it really needs to be taken as any other important role we have in an agency. And one of the, especially when it comes, I'll wrap with this, one of the big things when it comes to a critical incident, that flow of communication to the community is as equally as important to mitigating the threat. And I have never, ever, ever read an after action report that doesn't tell a story of probably 20 to 50 things we could have done differently to improve communications. So very important function in any police department.
All right, so what training is available to develop a PIO? I want to piggyback a little bit on what Chris said, talking about those after action plans. Number one is we've all been into a debrief where communication fails, successes. I will say 99% of the time it's been a fail or something hasn't happened. So having that seat at the table is vital when you're dealing with these emergencies and these critical incidents, because you know, we're the person that they call. They're not calling, you know, the chief of police or your sheriff or your captain. They're calling us and wanting correct and accurate information. So what training in my mind, I always think ABT, always be training. I will find a Canva video and just watch a tutorial. I will watch tutorials on TikTok. I don't know if that makes me a nerd or whatever it is, but always, there's so many free things. YouTube tutorials. You want to learn how to edit a video. Canva has all of that, which is all free. You can pay for the pro, but you can get all that for free. So there's my Canva. No, I'm not a paid endorser, but they should be paying me at this point. Formal training. Chris talked about, you know, going in front of public speaking, doing a press conference, talking to the media. So many trainings, and I'm a big proponent of FBI LEDA. Both of those classes, the media and public relations into the master PIO class, will walk you through getting ready for a press conference, during the press conference, how you respond. Definitely the Illinois Chiefs of Police PIO circle, because if I have a question or something and I'm like, you know what, I have all these like-minded people, why don't I just go in here? Because you open that up to Facebook and then you get all these random responses, but you go in there, this is your group, these are your jam. FEMA has all the ICS stuff. You can do most of those online. You don't have to take I think 300 and 400 you have to take in person, but you can do the initial ones, go through incident command. So many different coursework through NIOA. This will be my first NIOA conference coming up at the end of the month. And I am super excited because we've all gone to these classes and you've gone to the FEMA classes and the emergency response, but I'm really excited for just a bunch of like-minded people being at the same thing and learning about things that we can actually make a difference, that things we've actually come across, or maybe we haven't yet. Then we're prepared for what's coming next. So peer development. If you have a local PIO peer group in Rockford, we have the Winnebago County PIO group, and we meet once a month just over WebEx and talk about issues that are happening in our area. The leader is with the health department, so a lot of the stuff comes from her on what's happening around, so people know. Build skills for minimal cost. I'm telling you, YouTube. I am actually, one of my friends in a PIO group is doing a CapCut thing tomorrow. So I get into that and I'm so confused on just doing the little short videos, the mobile videos. So, and she's like a pro. So she's going to do a little WebEx for us to get us into CapCut and kind of learn templates and kind of how to start from scratch and then how to use those. We have so many different people that have, I have a unique set of skills, like Joe said. We all really do. And it's kind of fun to learn from other people. And I think that's because they're learning and doing the same things we are. That's going to be key. Reach out to your people. Everybody has these unique skills and they'll show you how to do it. But again, minimal cost. Classes here, $50 here, so many different online costs or classes. Also, your villages, your cities may have actual classes through, whether it's through NeoGov, through Power DMS, there's courses in there as well. Also, it allows for networking and info sharing. That's why I love the PIO circle, the Chiefs PIO circle, because we share info all the time. We can go in and do a discussion and then we can each answer and what applies for us, and provides backup. Backup is key because for some of us single PIOs, there's really no backup. So it's kind of nice that I can reach out to them and say, hey, you guys, I'm busy over here. Can you just check this website or this Facebook page and just see if there's any posts coming up, anything I should be aware of? Which I also learned in my FBI LEADA class, because we've built that connection and that group of people from all over the US that they can just sit on their phones and monitor while you're doing something else. Because like a couple slides ago, when something happens, we are all hands on deck, everything falls to the wayside. So it's nice to have that group of people that you can rely on that understand what you're going through.
If I can get my microphone unmuted. So we're now going to move into questions that we received in advance. It's going to be kind of an open panel discussion, but absolutely something that if you get additional questions, we'll have time at the end for questions from folks who are actually here. But we thought we would start with, for organizations that don't have a PIO or that have one but want to grow their team, the question was how they get started.
I'll just throw something out there. Yeah, this isn't uncommon. It's not uncommon, especially for smaller municipal agencies, that they don't have a PIO or there's turnover. And I would say biggest thing is the trainings that Michelle just mentioned. Those are all excellent resources. The IACP also has a PIO section where they host a yearly seminar with different instructors. That NIOA are two of the very best nationwide. Those are great starts, but I would say getting to meet other PIOs from the region, talking to them, meet them for coffee, and get a lay of the land. That is the best place to start, and grow it like anything else you would in your agency, because the sooner you start, the sooner we start that, you're going to be on more solid ground when something major happens. You definitely don't want to be trying to juggle what to do or what should we do or who should talk. If you've got a critical incident, the framework should already be in place. So this way the PIO can get out, they know what their role is, they know what their job is, and they're entrusted. One of the things that's really essential is that we can't have multiple layers of approval necessary to get a message out, especially in a critical incident. Incident commander or chief of police, final approval, it should be quick, but it shouldn't be a PIO having to go to a sergeant, having to go to a lieutenant, having to go to a captain, having to go to the chief. That will slow the message down. It waters down the importance of what's going to be in the message, and it never works. So it's really important. There's got to be just one line of approval, get the message out. Growing the team. Another thing Michelle mentioned is networking and having individuals you can call in a crisis. If something here happens in Lake County, let's say, for example, and it's one of our municipal PDs, and there's just one PIO and there's a million things they're going to have to do, they can pick up a phone and call a number of us who can come in, whether it's do help out on the back end, whether it's take the lead with press conferences so they can do things on the back end, whatever it is, having a game plan where you can rely on others to come in and assist. And that's an easy way to grow the team. If you have to use outside resources, or you have multiple people inside where you've got a leader, like a team leader, a director, so to speak, if it's a small agency with multiple people doing multiple things, and several helpers that help out and bring it to the leader, and then the leader brings it for final approval. Those are some things that I've seen work on more of a local basis.
Another thing that you should consider is starting with someone who is passionate, interested, engaged, or frankly has the skills you need. If you have an officer that is one of those TikTok cops that you're trying to break into TikTok, recruit them, use their skills, use their following. And you'll certainly get further that way than just surprise, you're now the PIO, please attend training. Good luck in front of the cameras. Those are the folks that have a strong tendency to either get deeply passionate about it or really hate it and try to get out of it as quickly as they can, at which point all the training you've given them is out the window. So it's absolutely the case that finding people that are interested and engaged, people who have the skill set, it's a great jumping off point if you don't presently have a PIO assigned in the role.
I would agree and I would echo that. It's not necessarily when it comes to PIO, I would say look for the skills. We have officers who, when we're just kind of overall looking at what we're missing or what missing link, you know, they're good with video or they don't mind being in front of a camera. Kind of identifying those people doesn't mean that you're asking them to put in a bunch of extra work, but you kind of have pinpointed who that would be in a crisis, who you could rely on in those situations.
Looking ahead, so we had several questions that came in as it related to social media. So we kind of grouped them all on one slide. Questions, and we'll just kind of go around to the panel here. But what platforms your department uses, how your accounts balance against or work with the broader organization you're a part of, why it's important for different departments to have their own social media, and how you make time for good content on social media, because otherwise it could get a little bland. So I can share personally, so Champaign Police use Facebook and Twitter. We do have access to the broader City of Champaign Instagram, but we only use that for specific messaging. I'll let the rest of the panel weigh in.
I'll start. We use Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Twitter predominantly for urgent reports or urgent updates, traffic, and anything that needs to go out quickly, because I meet with the local media twice a year, and we talk about how if they need instant information from us, they know that they can go to X or Twitter, and sometimes they will instantly retweet it within, you know, seconds, 30 seconds, a minute. We've trained them that that's where they're going to get their urgent updates from. Facebook is really our jam. We have almost 50,000 followers. So we know that that's our audience. We know that that's where we need to put most of our information out on. And then since Facebook owns Instagram, it's just adding that checkbox and just having it automatically go to Instagram. I think, I want to answer real quick why is it important for departments to have their own social media accounts? We've met numerous times, all of us here in this group and other PIO groups, and have heard that a lot of agencies are under their city or village accounts. And that's really, really hard to push out your messages, your narratives, and your agendas when, say, the city or village is posting out about, you know, garbage pickup being delayed. And then all of a sudden you're trying to post out, you've got a great event coming up, or you have an urgent update, or you need help finding a suspect or something. It's really, really important. If you don't, I'm speaking to chiefs and everybody, get your own account. Get your own social media account for your agency. And then that way you can guarantee that your message is getting out there. And then I will repost City of Rockford stuff. They will repost my stuff too, as it applies. The communications director, we're in sync together talking all day long for the most part. So I think if you take away one thing from this today, try to separate your agency from your village or city's main site. So that's my go-to.
I echo that as well. I actually am one of those unique people. I manage both the village social media accounts and the police department accounts, but it's definitely a strategic thought process of what information goes where, so that your police department page is ready at all times, to not only build that trust and those good champions of your department, but also be ready when you do need that support from the community, and either identifying someone in a picture or announcing something through an emergency that message is up front. We have a comfort dog, so we put that stuff on a separate page, and that's managed by the officers that kind of take care of him. And then we have our village stuff separate. But like Michelle said, like I can go in and I can share from village to police and vice versa. But it's really important to keep those two messages while we're all under one house. To the public, those are two different agencies, and they go to both for different types of information. And then just, we're Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and X. We do have some engagement videos and stuff that we do on YouTube. And then we do have a joint LinkedIn account that we try to, we have a lot for recruiting or for building kind of that professional development for what's happening internally as well.
we pretty much use the same. Facebook, Twitter, we primarily use for, we've transitioned. We use it for mainly news, important information that needs to get out quickly, versus feel good stuff. We use that, Facebook for that. Instagram, we're currently locked out of, so I'm working on trying to reestablish our connection with that, but that is a royal pain. And then we use Nextdoor. I don't know if anybody else is using Nextdoor. It's a great tool to really reach into specific neighborhoods. If you need to, you can message sometimes specific streets. You can draw a polygon around areas you want to message. If there's something just important to one subdivision, one neighborhood, but might not be of interest to other portions of the community. So that's a great resource as well. One additional thing I'll throw in is it is really important for agencies to have their own independent social media. The community is going to, when something major happens or something they're interested in, they're going to follow pages that they want to receive their information. And they truly might not be interested in what a village hall is putting out on a daily basis, but they are interested in crime-related information, and therefore they're going to follow a police department page over a village page. So something to think about. I know it's always a tricky workaround when it comes to working with town hall, city hall, village hall, to try to make that happen. It's not always super easy.
I would say it also reflects the difference in messaging, right? If your village is very, gung-ho about, hey, come live here, it's a great place to live, it's hard to message that while the same account is simultaneously putting out crime reports and mugshots. So sometimes it helps to really separate those messages. In terms of how you have time to make good content for social media, Michelle, I know you've already given a plug to Canva, and for those who have never played with Canva, it is life-changing. Please sponsor us. And,
yeah, right. I know, like we should be being paid for likes and shares and all the people that we've had sign up for Canva over the years.
But I will say that the best source of information, it comes down to having a PIO with dedicated time to be able to build rapport and relationships inside the organization, building trust with officers so that you'll get things like random text messages with photos of a happy-go-lucky, these officers stopped at a lemonade stand today. And it's really about getting officers to buy in on helping with that content, or frankly, buy in on telling you about potential content, right? And so it's about getting that mindset out into the organization, and that takes dedicated staffing in order to build that into your workflows. Sometimes it's about just having that person in a meeting that when they tune in on something, I'll jot down a note and I'll circle back for the photo opportunity. So
Yep.
it really is about just having someone dedicated to that effort.
I've started using AI as well. When we're trying to put some information out, and I just, it's hard to word things correctly a lot of times. And like Chris said, they're going through it with a fine-tooth comb. They're taking that red pen to every word, everything. I've actually gone through in our last recruitment cycle and put like, hey, Chat GPT, tell me 25 reasons to become a Rockford, Illinois police officer. And then I kind of took that as like a guideline. Yeah, I'm not going to write it verbatim, but I'm like, oh, I didn't even think about that. So for me, AI has become like a spark a little bit to like help me just be creative, because we all have so many things going on. And I'm like, oh, I need to put out posts. And then you can go into Canva and you can make all those posts and like do it in a whole batch. And so that way you're set through the rest of the month and you're setting things in and out. And the relationship thing is key. I have a media background, so I think that has, as much as I thought like, oh, that's not that big of a deal. There's a lot of PIOs that come from journalism or TV or radio. I came from TV and radio. To have that relationship where they're like, hey, do you have something coming up? Do you have any feel-good stories we need? And to feed them those feel-good stories when you have them. I had an officer that rescued a cat she turned her squad lights on a coyote that had a cat in its mouth, and the coyote dropped it. She ended up adopting that cat a few days later. And it's like getting that where she could tell me about that. And I tell them, I'm like, your auntie, your grandma, your mom, your sister, I want to brag about you. So don't feel like you can't share that with me or you're bragging about yourself. Cause we need that. We need to humanize them as much as possible. So you've got the press releases about the violent crime and the stabbings or whatever is happening, but then you know, they can keep scrolling and there's some really good feel good stuff because they do a lot of great things in the community. So it's having those people and knowing who's your go-to when you need something like that. That's definitely key. But yeah, Canva is key. Just look up templates. I borrow, I was gonna say I cheat all the time, but I borrow things. I borrow things from other people. I see something they're doing good. I'm like, oh, I want to do that. And then I kind of tweak it for me.
To piggyback real quick about the comments when it comes to getting that content in for your department so you can post it, that's really where your chief is going to come into play, because you need the support of your chief to help, you know, kind of prod these officers. Hey guys, I know you're out there doing great work. I know you're doing amazing things. Just take a picture a day, you know, or a picture a week or something like that, and send it to our PIO, because your PIO is going to be asking for your officers for information, asking your officers for photos, but you might get a couple, you know, quite a few grumbles from them and things like that. But if you get the chief saying, hey guys, no, we're going to do this, that's going to be real key to really getting that cooperation amongst everyone in the department.
So this goes back to an earlier topic of conversation, but where your PIO exists in the department org chart, and who do they report to, and is that important? So I think we've hammered this home pretty well already, but we're going to say it again. Your public information officer needs to be a member of your command team. Does not mean they need to be a lieutenant. Maybe they're a civilian like I am, but they should absolutely have direct access to, if not reporting directly to, the chief. That's important for a number of reasons. Primarily, it comes down to buy-in, and that works both ways. Having your agency executive on board with the mission and the message, and having the message reflect what they want it to be, that requires access. So definitely, if you have a PIO that's locked in a closet somewhere because you don't want them to be finding out what's going on until you tell them that, please let them out. Give them the access that they need to do the work that they're doing for you. Any other contributions on that? Okay. How does your organization decide what information to share and what not to share?
For us, we look at it, you know, there's no hard line. How we review things is it of public interest? Is there a public safety concern? Is it something that we as a member of the community feel we would want to know if we were on the receiving end? And if the answer is yes, we push it out. Certainly if there is an officer involved shooting, any type of major use of force, that's information we're obligated to release. And we want to think about too, even if there is something, we all have human beings that work for us. People make mistakes. It happens. The community doesn't necessarily, depending on the egregiousness of the mistake, they're looking to see how are we handling it? Are we getting out and are we being open and honest about it? And one of the things I see departments lose credibility with their community over is when there is something that internally they should have explained or talked about externally, and they don't. They wait until somebody finds out about it. And whenever that happens, it is way harder to get in front of that message. It is way harder to right that ship. It is much easier to try to take one bite of that apple right away, get out in front of it, talk about what happened, what went wrong, and what we're doing as an agency to ensure that we're doing everything we can to ensure it doesn't happen again. So those are things we think about, whether it be a crime that's occurred, whether it be something where public safety is imminent, where we need to talk about it, or whether it be somewhere where we failed and we need to do better next time. Those are messages we will get out in front of.
I agree with everything, and silence says way too much. They fill the space with the rumors and what's not being said but it's being said. So the sooner you can share what you can share, the better off everybody is. Your agency, the city, being a municipality, we have some regulations we abide by, but we're the ones getting the calls from the elected officials and the mayor and aldermen and things like that. So you know kind of what you need to share because you speak for your department, but you need to we're PIOs, we're public information officers. So whatever we can provide to the public, we absolutely should, and quickly.
Additionally, this is a good question to ask your own agency, right? So I can tell you that we have written directives at the Champaign Police Department. We have a communications plan that spells out, this is what we do a press release for. These are the methods that we notify our community by. And it includes internal messaging, opportunities for us to communicate with our department, with elected officials, with city leadership, along with external messaging. And so it's nice having that conversation in advance, so that when it comes down to it and you have, we've had a shooting, we know that we message it in this way based upon our plan. And carving out opportunities in that list for, and anything else that is public that the community is concerned with, right? Not just saying, here is the list and these are the 5 things that we message, but understanding how fluid that is. But it's really essential to have those conversations in advance so that you're not, standing in the middle of a crime scene going, are we going to message this or not? You have some checks and balances in place. The next question that we had, and I do see some in the chat that we will get back to there. Why is it important to put out more than just a press release?
I can take that one. I think at the basic level is people consume media in all different ways, and you've got a lot of different markets and target markets that you're speaking to. You have a lot of stakeholders. So you've got the actual media, you've got your residents. Internally, you have your officers and your staff. So really, sometimes when you have an incident, you need to put something out. One of our best practices that we added was anytime we put a press release out, we now copy our entire staff. So internally, everyone receives that press release. So the utility billing clerk isn't sitting on the front line and a resident comes in and is asking questions about the recent arrest or something like that. Same thing with our officers receive information about what's going on with yard stickers or something in case they're out on the street and someone's complaining. So I think it's your website, it's your social media and putting things out so people feel like you're not just slipping a story in there small, but you're really doing it in all-encompassing way of letting them know the information and where they can find it and where they can refer back to it as well.
How do you build and maintain a positive image with the sometimes negative public perception or concern for community safety?
There's always going to be naysayers out there. There's always going to be people that are going to throw shade on a post that are going to talk about something completely irrelevant to anything you're talking about. One thing I've learned is that it is best not to engage with any of them. There will be far more supporters than haters that are following your social media. Let the people that love your agency go toe to toe with those that want to try to throw shade. It's the best way to handle it. And continue to push out good news, continue to push out stories that feel good things. The community loves seeing pictures of us interacting with the community. They love seeing photos. If you have a canine unit or any other like therapy dog, some equestrian units across the state, anything like that, the community loves to see that. So the more of that you can push out, the more of the feel good things you can push out on social media, the better it is. The community really enjoys seeing those things.
Yeah, and I would echo with the positive image and the sometimes negative. Understand the First Amendment implications of social media. And that's a whole other webinar that we will have to do at a different time. But if you have social media accounts, the legalities of deleting or removing a comment, oh man, the First Amendment arguments, we need some lawyers in here for that. But the reality is that you will have people who, on the most positive of posts, will come in and will leave negativity. And you're absolutely right. The best thing to do is focus on the people who are being positive. Let the community police itself in that regard. But for heaven's sakes, if you leave here with nothing else, you cannot delete posts or censor content. Just know that and seek your own attorneys as to why. But it really is important. Humanizing our officers, explaining why we do what we do, getting out in front of negative stories, all of that plays a role in our ability to connect with our communities. And it takes work, it takes constant effort, but that's why a PIO is so essential. Is there a person who can put in that constant effort while other people are doing their jobs accurately and well as well?
I think it's important too, while we're humanizing them, is sometimes what is obvious to us is not obvious to the public or the citizens. So kind of giving them a little bit of, behind the curtain stuff every once in a while. Or I did a post yesterday of, that officer squad cars are their mobile offices. That's where they have their breaks, their lunch, their dinner, their breakfast. They talk with other officers. Just giving that kind of that background of like, why is that officer been parked in that parking lot for half an hour? Well, maybe he's eating, maybe he's talking to his kids, maybe she's working at like Joe, you've got some schooling coming up. Maybe they're studying, teaching the public that like, yeah, they don't have desks. This is where they do their work, almost all of it. But yeah, definitely that just push out as much as you can, because you're never going to over communicate the good, and you're going to have the haters. When I meet with the new officers, I tell them in my head, I just think, do not engage. You do not have to respond to every post. You don't have to respond to any of them. Put your message out there and like Chris said, let them work through themselves. They're going to police each other. They're going to try to out keyboard warrior one another. So let your positive, your backers, more than likely, if they're on your page, they're going to eat them alive when it comes to wordsmithing and what's happening. And then they eventually just go away.
Real quick, I see something came in the chat. How do you handle staff who are potentially expected to post info or content after hours, who are not full-time salaried? For example, there's an incident in the middle of the night. I think it really depends on the severity of whatever's happening. If it's something major that's going to require continued communication, the PIO has to be notified and needs access remotely from wherever they're at, and they need to get to work. It's not a 24/7 job. They have to understand that getting into the role. Now, if you just don't have someone, you've got someone specific at your agency that's kind of a light PIO that's just lightly posting social media content, you have to remember the community is going to expect you to deliver important content on the same platforms you deliver regular content where you stay in touch with them. It will not be forgivable if we constantly post about all the happy, fun things we do, and then people's lives are at risk, and then we're nowhere to be found on social media. They will take issue with that. So a couple of things. If your PIO is not available, there really should be somebody on duty that can log in and post for you. For us, our dispatchers and our dispatch supervisors have access. So for low-level things such as a road closure due to a fatal crash, closures because of a fire, something that isn't going to require constant communication, they can knock out. And then they'll send me an email saying, hey, FYI, posted this at 2 a.m. Here's why. Here's a copy of the incident, because you're probably going to get follow-up questions from the media the following day. But there really has to be something in place where somebody can log in and post. The community does expect that from us.
So in the pre-written questions, what tools and software are out there that are helpful for PIOs? Again, Canva, that ship has sailed. There are exceptional tools, things like Hootsuite, or I know at Champaign we use it's called eClincher for social media scheduling. So that would be, I can pre-schedule a month in advance of various posts on repeat. There are excellent tools for that use. So it's absolutely at the discretion of the agency, and they vary by organization size, budget size. But tools for design, social media scheduling. What else do you guys have?
We also use Constant Contact for email database so that we can shoot out releases. We keep separate lists for national media, police media. Obviously, I control Village too. So if we have news events, we have different lists that we can monitor. We can see who opened the emails. If they opened it 15 times, I probably know that that news outlet is potentially going to run a story or is at least pitching the story. So things like that, it really allows you to control that. We also use Hootsuite, Canva. We use SmugMug for holding all of our photos. That way, then if I need to send out media photos, I have who took the photo, all of that stuff already ready to go. We also use Animoto for quick video if we need to knock out our own video. But as Michelle said, Canva can do that stuff as well. So.
Yeah, the only thing that Canva I found is lacking, and I'm pretty sure they'll probably figure it out because that's what they do. They figure out what everybody needs is the photo editing. So what I did was for my budget for next year, I put in Adobe Lightroom because it's pretty easy. You can batch edit stuff. And I used Premiere Pro when I was in TV and Photoshop and stuff, but you don't need to have all of that. And Lightroom's like $110 to have per year, and it's super easy to use. If you do a lot of photo editing, I do. Canva, I used to use Premiere Pro, and I now use Canva for all of our video editing, whether it's mobile, whether it's our OIS, everything is done in Canva. Also, I saw our fire chief and somebody else here has Remarkable, which is that digital notebook. Because I don't know if you're like me, like I have this notebook is this notebook is this. And when I'm looking up something, I have all these yellow notepads. You can write into Remarkable. It will even turn it into a PDF or a Word document. And then you can email it to yourself into a folder, and then you have it. So I have a drawer full of old notebooks. And I actually went back. I'm like, oh, when did I first contact this person? I had to dig through. So I put that in my budget for next year because the fire chief was like, oh no, I love this thing. Like it's great. You have it. It's like writing on paper. I have for all my notes, and then it goes right into a PDF or a Word document. So I'll circle back once I get that after budgeting and see how that works out. But yeah, Canva, and pay for Canva Pro because then it opens like 1,000 different fonts and different apps. And it's not expensive. It's like $120.
Yeah.
And there's a million tutorials too.
One other tool that I will share, in Champaign, we use a tool called Critical Mention that does media monitoring for us. So you can actually set it up. So anytime that the phrase Champaign Police comes up in a TV newscast, I think it can monitor some like NPR radio. I can actually get email alerts along with snippets of the video for internal monitoring and sharing. It helps by actually providing things like perception, positive versus negative of an incident. And it really helps us to know what's going on, because for one person, it's hard to monitor all media at all times. I can't watch 4 simultaneous newscasts. So it's a really helpful tool. What else can a PIO or communication strategist do for the department? And I do want to be brief because we are nearing the end of our time here.
I would say, I think that if they're doing their job externally well, they have the ability to bring up morale internally. And the reason being is you're often going to find most of your staff, they're going to say, no, I don't want my picture used. I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to be the content of this or that. But truly, I think people do like to be highlighted. Their actions like to be highlighted. They like to see their actions highlighted. Their peers like to see things that they've done well highlighted. So if they're telling a good story internally, they're improving morale internally as well, I would say. And I know that's not necessarily how this question was framed, but I just think it's an extra that a PIO can bring. They can really bring up the mood of the agency if they're highlighting what people are doing inside.
I think a lot of it comes down to polish, honestly. A lot of what I do on a routine basis is not just media, it's not just social media or community engagement. But if it's coming from the desk of the chief, it swings through my office first. It's that added ability to just elevate your messaging, internal, external. Nothing that we send to the city council goes out without being read by me first. And it's just acting as, in a lot of ways, that first set of community member eyes. I did not go to the police academy, and I don't always talk like a cop. So it's helping them to see moments in their message that they need to make sure that they clarify, because it's easier to have a tough internal audience than it is to have a tough external audience.
Just to add one point to that, Joe, because you bring up a good point. Oftentimes us that are the PIOs, that this is how we grew up. We came through the organization. We've been police officers our entire career. One of the things we have to learn is to drop the jargon, because the public and the community, they don't understand oftentimes how we frame things, our lingo, things that we say, and it creates confusion. It creates inconsistencies in messaging, where key points that we might want to get out, the public doesn't understand. If we say something along the lines of the taser deployment failed, somebody in the community has no idea what that means, or somebody defeated the taser. What does that mean? We need to be descriptive. We need to break it down and drop that jargon. And Joe, you're right. I mean, somebody in the communications arena that came from a different background, that's a huge benefit.
I accidentally used the word stop sticks in a release, and I'm just like, everybody knows what those are.
Next question is, what have you done to prepare to communicate during a major incident in your community? And the answer that I would give is a lot. If you're not planning for the next major incident, you're doing yourself a disservice as a PIO. You're doing your agency a disservice, because the reality is that these incidents move. You're battling 24/7 rumor mills, information coming out in real time that may or may not be accurate, unencrypted radio channels, and local media that's trying to get a jump on the story, national media that's moving in order to cover it. We like to say that here in Champaign, we've got about an hour and a half from the start of an incident until our first non-local reporter gets here. And so it's about working in advance to have messages pre-drafted and crafted. There are a lot of fill-in-the-blanks things that you can get just by reading AARs on incidents that were managed well, incidents that weren't managed well, and really being able to put that together into, if you have the resources, having a comprehensive emergency communications package sitting and waiting is definitely a recommended action.
Getting to know your journalists before then as well. If it's a major enough incident, you're going to have your A team from every news network that's on it. It's not going to be your brand new, wet behind the ears journalists that don't know one way or another if what you're saying is accurate or not. You want your hardcore journalists to be able to know you're a trusted source. What you say is going to be the truth. They can come to you. They can trust what you're saying. If you need to frame something off the record just to so they understand the direction something's going, that you've already got that relationship built, where you're not trying to guess, oh man, I hope I don't get burned here. And they're not trying to think, I hope this guy isn't trying to burn me. Those relationships on the front end are so important when something major happens, because there's so much communicating that's going to happen back and forth, whether it be actually on camera and a recorded interview, or just telephone calls where you're trying to frame exactly what was going on. So relationship building now is really critical to success when something major does happen.
I would also say we obviously have some of the graphics and stuff ready to go. We've got some samples of stuff. FBI LEADA training was great for that, and putting together those that crisis binder and having that kind of available. I know a lot of people work on digital and things like that, and I have my laptop ready to go, but I also have a printed binder. So if I needed to grab it and pass it off to someone else, if anyone's coming in and assisting, we have that ready to go. Obviously, Smug Mug, I have, general generic police imagery and photos that has our logo on it already ready to go. And things like that. We also actually, because I am not a video guru, we have a videographer who is on retainer in case of an incident. He has agreed, and we have a contract. He would come in and add anything we needed if we had to release any body cam video, because it is not something that's in my wheelhouse or that anyone here at the department has. So things like that.
Michelle had a question about what the actual PIO titles are. Communications director, public relations, stuff like that.
Yeah, so a little background real quick is when I was hired, they had a public information officer prior, but she really didn't do a lot of like the PIO stuff, where I definitely am in the PIO role and have kind of changed the job description a little bit. So they gave me a title of, I'm the PIO, but my actual like title on my job description is media and marketing coordinator, which we all know in law enforcement, the first thing you read media, you're like, ooh, and I don't coordinate marketing and kind of things like that. So I want to put forward like, hey, I would really like to change my title, whether it's the public information officer, but kind of see what some of you have as titles. Or any recommendations, because you guys all know me and know what I do.
So my job title is, brace yourself because it's gross, assistant to the police chief for community services and public information officer. And it doesn't tell people a whole lot about what I do. It's certainly always a point of contention, and people end up not always knowing where to go. I think the key to it is moving past the job title and doing the actual work. But assistant to, I get a little bit of a Dwight Schrute thing with assistant to. So
Assistant to the regional director, assistant
Yes.
to the assistant of the regional director.
Yes.
Yeah, so maybe you need this too. So maybe it's something you should think about as well.
For me, it's just public information officer. So boring, but gets the point across.
I don't think it's boring. It says exactly what you are. So, I mean, I'm open to that. I just know that some people have like these fancy, like communication strategist, and I'm fine with PIO because that's how I'm introduced and that's what everybody says. So I just want to get rid of the media word in it.
At this
AJ,
time,
you want to
sorry.
take it away? It's we went a few minutes over.
Yeah, I think that pretty much does it. Thank you everyone for joining us. This was a great event. This was a great training session. Lots of great information. We'll end up putting this out on a video for everyone. Maybe if I get enough time, maybe a podcast as well. But just to kind of get all this information out there, it's a lot, and it's a good job with the PIOs who've joined us here today, that they've done with the questions and the answering and really getting the point across. So thank you everyone for joining us. We really appreciate it.